Hello, everyone. This is Coach Matt for the Seattle Chess School. This is the 11th version of the Thursday night adult class. We'll just jump right into the action. Here we got Syrras9, who's taking a few week break against Robert Karl Jr. This was a Caro Kann advanced variation with C5. Not a variation I've had too much experience with. I know this creates some different possibilities in the center of the board. H3. So this is designed to fight against the bishop being developed, say like knight f3, bishop g4. So my guess would be that maybe bishop f5 is most logical. Try to play a super French defense. Queen b6 is also a reasonable idea. And then there's bishop f5. Okay. So this is the position. Current time here. All right, so it looks like the black has got all the good parts of a advanced French with the bishop being developed. I wonder if this actually means anything. I mean, if black plays e6, maybe white can play knight h4, go after the bishop. Maybe in some cases, black will have a bishop takes b1 tactic. Maybe something like e6, g4, bishop takes b1, rook takes b1, cd, cd, check. Might be a little too difficult to deal with. Maybe white could play king f1 there. Anyway, so we get to see something like e6. So white's got a variety of ways, of course, to play this. Castling with dc and b4. Maybe you could play dc, bishop c5, castle first. Black might have time to play a5 there. Be interesting to see how Cyrus proceeds. Okay, castles first. So the threat might be the very Nimzovician dc, followed by b4. With general expansion on the queen side. Be interesting to see what Robert Karl Jr. does here. Knight e7. So this is definitely strategically on now that there's no more bishop takes. In fact, it might even be just tactically really good. dc, queen c5. Bishop e3. Queen a5. b4. Queen c7. Maybe something like dc, queen c5, b4 first, b5 second, then bishop to e3. And this way there will be no more pressure on e5. That seems much more logical. This is also logical. This is preparing b4, and there it is. Bishop takes b1, and he very quickly played knight f5. So he has this a lot of pressure here on d4. In fact, maybe he could have made that worse by just simply capturing once and then going knight f5. That also seemed reasonable. Okay, so knight f5 without h5 might encourage g4. And I know that looks like a move where it's destroying the white king side, but black has no pieces aimed over there. So this is actually a space gaining venture for white rather than a weakening of the king. Maybe g4 followed by b4 and then make black settle the issue with the c pawn. So yeah, and knight f5 was also pre-moved. So he goes b4 first. Okay, so this gives black a chance to capture here and then even play h5 and try to slow down g4. But he must do something because there's a double attack here. Although the funny, b takes is not a threat when the rook is hanging. So the real threat is dc. But then even there, dc, bishop takes c5, and you still have the same problem. So black may get a chance to wait here. But of course, okay, so he takes, and then h5 is very logical here, keeping the knight on f5. Wait a minute, there's only two defenders here. What am I talking about? No, this is a triple attack. Duh. Yeah, okay. So the only question is, let's see. So probably capturing here, because if they go for the pin, you can capture the pinner. If you take with the F knight, then but this pin could lead to just a simple take with a check. So it looks like black's just winning a pawn here. Yeah, okay. So yeah, b4 was a blunder. So that means backing up a couple of moves. Yeah, you have to take the pressure off of d4 here. So g4 was forced. So yeah, b4 was a mistake. Take. Yeah, that was just a simple triple attack. Take. Right. And so any pin here, of course, is just met by capture. Probably can even win back the bishop pair. That seems somewhat logical. Taking the knight is also logical. That takes away a defender off of e5. So you could go knight takes, bishop takes, queen c7 with pressure on e5. Even that's logical. So black could probably take either way with check and have that be perfectly good. So yeah, very classic French tactic there. Although this started as a Caro Kann, but so he does the same thing with taking the bishop first, but that means that all he has to do is move the dark bishop, and he'll be defending this twice. So if he was going to go for this particular attack on e5, he might as well have taken away the guard of that square. This is just running into like a future b5 and utilization of the c file. This is also looking really good. So b5 is a threat. So yeah, so RKJ here wins a pawn, but he might have a hard time digesting this one. And this one might cause a stomach ache. So yeah, a6 looks a little too encouraging. I mean, encouraging these pawns to make a bunch of threats. Okay. All right. Well, now this queen's somewhat stuck. Still maintaining pressure here, though. I guess that's one point. Let's see. Wonder if that even matters. I mean, is this really a threat when white can just simply capture, and check? Yeah, that looks like that won't be. I don't know if that could be survived. That doesn't look good at all. So again, white basically has another free move here. Now, because of that, you probably don't want to play pawn b5, because then this combination won't work when you can't utilize the square. So in this case, white has a different kind of free move, but not b4. I wonder if a4 might be worth a go. Nah, I don't know. I mean, in bishop f4 does, I don't know. This diagonal looks really nice. Rook b2. Okay, so I mean, as far as a free move goes, I guess this is useful. Threatening to double, guarding the 7th rank. You know, for the same reason, maybe rook c2 was also good because that gets both rooks off of the dark squares. I was dreaming of some sort of combination like bishop g5 and a bishop to e7, then b5. But then if they capture on g5, it wins it. It'll win a tempo on the rook on c1. But if the rook was on c2 and the rook was on b1, then both rooks are on light, and there's no way the bishop can. Oh, so black fell for this. So no, 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 no. The correct. I think correct was just simply capturing. So capture, capture, and check. And that looks extremely difficult to survive. Now, although it did win a tempo on the rook, so maybe another reason to reject rook here. But of course, on the pin, now, oh, well, let's see. Yeah, capturing with check, queen takes, bishop d6. Maybe black can survive that. Yeah. So this doesn't look nearly as X. Oh, but he didn't find bishop d6. He finds queen d8 instead. So this means he has no development. So, and white's got full development, but is down 2 full pawns here. Yeah, I don't know. It's like somehow you got to make use of this. All right. So preventing rook c8. So preventing that development. So bishop d6 prevents invasion. But capture, capture, rook c8 encourages it. So that's not good. Bishop to e7. Bishop e7, rook c7. I wonder if black will try to hold on to all the pawns, like just like bishop e7, rook c7, b6, or something like that, and just get greedy and see what white has there. You know, rook bc c2. So what else could be done here? I mean, bishop e7. I mean, it does prepare castling. If black can get that in, at least that unravels himself a little bit. Bishop might be well placed on f6 later on. So this can't really be stopped. So you might as well play for something else. Yeah, no. Then now he just walks into the combination. Take, rook c8, and the rook on h8 gets skewered eventually. Even if black takes, if black captures the rook, white will just simply take with the second rook, and then you just win this rook. And there's no back rank mate. White always has heir. So yeah, he finds it. Oh, that's too bad. That but like I said, though, black won that pawn, but then once he played queen c7, then it became a position where the pawn was hard to digest, and he even had 2 pawns extra, but it isn't going to be enough. The development matters here. So this is one of those classic games where one side develops, the other side gets greedy, and it's better player wins, I guess. But I think one of the points is that development does beat greed in many cases. So yeah, maybe RKJ realizes this and he's not going to take the bishop. But I mean, he can't escape with castling anymore. And once white plays a move like queen g3 and attack and defend and invade with the rook, or even just invading with the rook and collapse on f7. So I mean, whether he takes or not, it's really bad for him now, obviously. So probably resignable. And these are the only 2 guys here. So they'll probably get an immediate rematch here and they'll switch colors. So I would say Syrras got really lucky there out of that opening, because that opening, once he played b4. Oh, so here was his way out of it, to sack the lady. So this will allow him to castle, but I mean, the rook can get to c7. No worries on back rank mate. So just chomp away on the queen side, pawns, queen, whatever you have over here. Black does have a passed pawn here, though. So that would have to be dealt with at some point. Black does have a fortress with the rest of this, so he can let Al over here drop, but he can start using Delroy. Yeah, and there he goes. Okay, so he has an idea. Oh, he's going to block this with his king. Okay. That is fascinating. All right, well, better than nothing. Queen F5, I guess. That looks reasonable. Queen F5 stops this pawn from getting to F5. And if G6, then Queen F6, and everything's blockaded. Or even just G6, just take. Oh, so he takes time out for this. Fine. But he did get in F5. Okay, so I was right. That was the threat in the position. So E4 probably. The pawns are marching 2 by 2 here. 2 by 3, 3 by 1, 3 by none. So at E4, Queen F4, is that the idea? And then farm on F5. If D3 ever, then King to E1 and blockade. So here they come. Okay, check, fine. And then King H8, of course. Now what? Oh, this is your idea. So this forces a rook off. Or you just lose the D4 pawn for nothing. So I would assume capture cat. So at least the rook comes off. No, not yet. So now he gets a chance to save the rook if he wants it. Rook C8. And keep irritation chances. Yeah, but White probably should have taken this first. And then gone king to E1. That would have resolved his pain. For those of you that have been watching these videos, this has been kind of the theme of the Thursday night group is whoever is getting a winning position is not in an itch and hurry to exchange pieces, which has led to interesting adventures for the defender. And many times these games are getting turned around because of it. So here, once again, you can exchange pieces, get the rooks off the board, then you can follow it up. Okay, so he goes for the queen right away, but once again, Black can avoid this trade. Use this rook elsewhere, here or here. I mean, it doesn't look, it looks grim, but okay, this just drops the D pawn. He takes once, that's funny. So now the rook is actually active. So he can still take the D pawn. Yay, he finds it. But now he saves the rook. So he'll still have problems with E2 and possibly rook F1. So I would play rook DE8. Yeah, good move. Threatening here. This game's not over yet. This is what happens when you don't trade. The pieces just, they're like zombies. They come right back to life and they start to haunt you. And right. So now he's desperate to trade. Probably should avoid this one, is rook G8. Yeah, rook G8, rook F3. I get the point. Okay. And then he can round up Eddie, and then that would be it. So, okay. So he finds a good move. Good for you. But still, when you have to find these good moves when you could have had a good move a couple of moves ago, it makes it a little bit more difficult. There you go. Now he can only fight with you with one rook. Two rooks make a nice team. Two rooks make mate without the king's help, without a pawn's help. One rook, you need all kinds of help to make mate. So, yeah, if your opponent has two rooks, trade one of them off. In fact, you could just even trade them both off, or that. Either one, take it and promote this guy, and that should force resigns. Mistake. Trade down. There you go. There. Now, this is how a chess game is won. And Black should give up, but I don't. Maybe there's some sort of hope here. Stalemate. Is that the idea? Yeah. Just go pawn, go. Score another touchdown. Might as well take once. Okay. So you've pushed your pawns as far as they can go, RKJ. What do you have? Do you have any stalemate chances? No. Oh, log roll time. Do. There they go. Pre-moving to log roll. All right, so decent technique by Cyrus. Once he got the winning position, RKJ was winning first, though. He had a great position right out of the opening, and then had a hard time digesting. But that happens. All right, we'll take a small break here until the rematch game starts. All right, here's game 2. RKJ throws out the Smith Mora, which was accepted. By the way, if you do not wish to accept this, knight f6 is a great way to decline, and this just transposes to the Alpine variation, e4, c5, pawn c3, and it is a perfectly acceptable way. Capture, capture. Now, there's a variety of defenses. E6 is one of the trickier defenses. This could lead to either a quick a6 and b5. It can lead also to knight c6, knight f6, queen c7 with knight to g4, the Siberian trap. So we'll see what happens here. I've actually seen some players try to play bishop c5 and d6 and try to have like a fairly reasonable center here, but with the bishop on the Italian diagonal. This, however, I'm not familiar with. This bishop is actually quite important in these lines. These dark squares can be quite weak if somehow this bishop will be encouraged to capture here. I don't think giving the white the bishop pair in the Smith-Mora gambit is desirable. These bishops can carve all over the place here. So, but maybe Cyrus has something in mind. We shall see. It's making RKJ think, though. So this is, like I said, this is kind of an unusual move in this kind of position. Usually black either, like I said, either goes for like a6, b5, or like a quick like knight c6, knight f6 type of development. Yeah. This, I mean, if I were white, I would not be afraid of this particular exchange. Possibly even bishop f4, since now you have the tempo to do it. Also, that blocks out queen c7. Bishop c4 might not be ideal, although this is the normal Smith-Mora placement of the light bishop. This is interesting too, I suppose, although that might encourage queen c7. Oh, but then maybe the idea is rook c1. Okay, so this is interesting move. So now rook c1 is now available, even if black does play f6 and knight e7. Okay. All right. Well, I guess he's going to go in for black's going in for a huddle here. Let's see if this can work out. So I would assume rook c1 here. I mean, that is kind of the purpose of moving the dark bishop that quickly, right? You have to occupy the c file. You also have to have some extra protection in c3, just in case black goes for a queen c7. Now he does do that, but that encourages this. Queen c7. And suddenly we've got some skewer action here. Yeah, and this doesn't even attack anything really concrete. I mean, these pawns are firmly defended. As a matter of fact, after queen c7, if white decides to take here and try to upset the proceedings, black might even take this back with the king. and play for the skewer along the C line here. And then if need be, you could play rook to E8 and then wander away with your king. So it's funny. They're both sides are making each other think. So that generally means that I think that both sides are on their own here. Probably caused by this bishop to B4 move. This is definitely, my guess is this is not the most theoretical move. Okay, so but break and open center in the Smith-Morra oftentimes is not good for black. White is much better developed here. We shall see. I mean, there's even the ROG tactic, removal of guard, ROG, ROG. You could ROG him here. Remove this guard and then just start farming on D5. Although there is some interesting point, like bishop takes, queen takes is check. And then that also hits the bishop, so you would have to run back. Okay, so here's another tactic. All right, so this knight, obviously you can't do this knight because it's pinned. So knight bc6 is only move. And then what? Rook d1, is that the idea? Rook d1 looks actually really strong with a massive attack on d5. Maybe take here first and then rook d1. Looks like white's got an initiative here. I like how white's using the entire board. He's attacking in the center. He's attacking on the king side. He's attacking on the queen side. Board-wide attack. Very, very powerful. Very hard to block something like this too. Too many threats from too many angles. So this looks very promising for the pawn sacrifice. Black, on the other hand, if black can actually get a couple of moves like castle and f6 or something like that, he has good chances of digesting this pawn and just being a pawn up in a fairly reasonable middle game. So RKJ's probably got to do something here. I think rook d1 does get another piece into the attack and puts pressure on d5. Might compel black to give up the bishop pair and take some of the pressure off. Let's see what he does. He gives up the bishop. Okay, so castling is well motivated, but of course you have to do something about the bishop first before you do that, which is why I was suggesting rook to d1. So this is looking, okay, so now the d file is open, but man, you had to give up a bishop and a pawn just for that. Is there f6 here? F6 doesn't look terrible. We'll force him to capture. Knight takes. Defending. And looks like you're just up a pawn. Incidentally, queen a5 also looks interesting. He finds queen b6, but queen a5 looked really interesting too, because you had a skewer this way. You're attacking the queen. You got a double attack going here on c3. Probably has to trade queens, and black is just up a lot of material with trade of queens. Again, trading pieces down. This does not trade anything down. So what does white have here? Let's see. Bishop takes. He could take with the bishop. I suppose you could try bishop takes and see if he takes with the king, and then in which case you'd have check. Although you could take with a pawn and still hold. So, all right, so there's no tricks here. So white just has to, well, what? Has to take c4? Why not? Let's keep the pieces on. Queen c4, queen c5, or knight c4, queen c5. That hits this and this. Might force a trade of some kind. White will get the pawn back, but be forced to liquidate. Rook fe1. So not doing anything. So this walks into f6. Knight takes. Knight take. No. Suppose that might be okay. Which is interesting. He also has bishop c5 as a tempo move if he wants it. Castling. All right, I guess he has this too. Just getting okay. So this threatens knight takes knight. Just crawling out of his problems slowly but surely. So this is the drawback to the Smith-Morra gambit. Is that if white doesn't get play or doesn't play it right, then the extra material will count extremely quickly. And that's what we have here. I've often instructed students in the past that if you're going to accept the Smith-Morra gambit, if black can actually engineer castling in either direction safely, then black is usually winning. Black will have an extra pawn and a totally safe king. Now, of course, that's just a massive generalization, but it's mostly true. So yeah, just seek to castle safely and keep your extra pawn, and you too can beat this gambit. All right, so okay, so he gets one pawn back. This does walk into queen c5 though, which will hit here and here. So something will have to get traded, which is in black's favor. It blacks up a piece. No need for anything passive like queen c7 or anything like that. Actually, queen c7 might run into knight b5 and suddenly might have compensation for the piece. Who knows? So queen c5. I mean, attack them where they're weak. Hit them where they're weak. See what happens. Let's see, anybody else? Not so far. No, but he's thinking. I wonder what he's thinking about. I mean, queen b5 is off. Queen a5 is off. Queen d4 only makes one threat. Queen c7 runs into knight b5. Queen d8 runs into rook d1. Queen a6. Queen a6, I suppose white can just refuse the Trine-Quade and just play the position. And then you have to wonder what your queen's doing on a6. Okay, but yeah, so the time is dripping away here, though. Now that might not matter. He does have a little bit of a lead in time, and you get 5 seconds per move. So that's probably not a major consideration. But I mean, it seems to me that whenever you have just one good move, why don't you just play the one good move and then think on the next turn? I think that was some Bent Larson advice from way long time ago. He did play queen c7, so this is really passive here. So white gets a chance to have a little mini initiative. Knight to b5, queen b8, and I don't know, maybe a3, something like that. Maybe start creating some problems. Oh, maybe there's an additional way to cause problems. Maybe pawn e5. Nah. Okay, so we finally played rook c1. And this seems reasonable even here. I mean, white is still down a piece, but you know, if you're not going to resign, you might as well mobilize what you have and play for some sort of initiative or attack if you can get one. So maybe more exchange policy here. Maybe let's get rid of this guy. By the way, a6 doesn't really stop knight b5, so a6 might also be a waste of a move. Oh, well, look at that. And he, right when I said it, he played it. Well, because knight to b5. Well, let's see. Knight b5, a, b, queen takes, bc. Okay, so I guess a6 is playable. Never mind. Never mind. I was just saying that I mean, this guy is pinned. So a6 might not be that wonderful. But I mean, it looks like that because this knight is sitting here that this can be done. All right. Well, he does it anyway. But yeah, no, both horses are disappearing here. Funny. So A, B, queen takes rook, pawn takes knight, rook takes pawn. And then pawn takes, and then and if rook takes pawn, black still has queen a5, trying to trade queens, also hitting the bishop. Also, this rook is disappearing too. That's funny. Actually, I guess that was true on the last move here. Black actually could have taken the rook as well. Interesting. Okay, so he takes the knight, which hits the rook. Okay, so rook takes pawn isn't even on. Fine. So even if he saves the rook, he still has queen a5 as a liquidating move. This will be under attack. He'll be forced to trade, and you're still up 4 points. You get the ladies off. That should be a pretty easy win. You maybe even have some greedy policy like pawn b5 here and just hold on to the c pawn. That seems pretty okay too. In fact, I kind of like that more. Okay, so here he goes for another tactic, a fork here and here. Of course, white could trade if they wanted. Also, this fork to e4. Oh, g5 falls. What is he entertaining? The in-between move, bishop d6, but then pawn f4. It's suddenly really good. Yeah, so just take the bishop, of course. Now it's +6. You have all 4 minors. That's a good team. King is safe. You have a fortress over here. Everything's defending everything. Pretty easy win. I like knight here. Knight g6. You can go to e5. You can go to f4. You can go to h4. Suddenly remind him that he has a king. e5 also looks good. Releasing the bishop and anchoring the d4 square. He went h6, so he went to try to get air for his king. So that seems okay too. This is a nice tempo move. Win a tempo and then e5. Anchor the d4 square. Release the light bishop. Now he finds it, but okay, but at the cost of the b4 bishop here, though. Maybe that doesn't matter. Rook takes, knight takes, queen takes. Oh, yeah, queen takes rook. Okay, so that's the point is rook takes bishop, queen takes rook. Okay, very funny. Ha ha ha. All right, I still like bishop d2. Let's win a tempo. Win a tempo. There's a tempo. Here's another one. Yeah, this tempo. Wouldn't you like to win a tempo too? Man, is he? Oh, okay. So he finds the tempo. Yay! All right, g3, bishop d2, winning another one. Maybe you also could ignore this and maybe go queen g4 with queen f3 and vega mate. That's also possible. Yeah, this is again, passive. Yeah, maybe this diagonal's okay. Yeah, that just encourages knight d4. Knight d4 with knight e2, knight f3, variety of problems. What? Oh, he's going for queen f2, queen g2. Okay. This, however, might. Oh, he's got bishop f2 as well. That's funny. Yeah, bishop f2 is good. Okay, so this is a good attack. Bishop f2, king h1, and then move the queen to e3. And that queen f3 is really hard to stop. Yep, he finds it. So then he has to find this move on the next turn. Queen to e3, threatening queen f3. And also guarding the bishop and also protecting the queen. All at the same time. No, you lose. Oh, he gets fancy. Oh, that was that even forced? Fancy way of winning there. Let's see. Let's back up. Let's see. Can you guard this? Yeah, actually, I guess he can. Go like this, which is incidentally that actually guards queen e3. That's funny. Probably still winning for black, but yeah, that was extra fancy. All right, so 2 in Syrras's favor, and we'll take a little pause here and wait for the next game. All right, here's round 3 between RKJ and Syrras. This time it was a Smith Mora gambit declined d3. I actually had a student that played this against a couple of strong players a few years ago. And one of his ideas was to go into a Sicilian Marazzi bind where white will actually, in order to create the bind with c4, is going to have to invest a couple of moves. Also, the bishop on d3 isn't really all that well placed. And so while white is reorganizing themselves in Marazzi bind fashion, black will have more than enough time to set up a perfectly reasonable like dragon or accelerated dragon position. Here Syrras is going for something more e5-ish, but this looks extremely weakening. Syrras himself is a Sveshnikov defense player, so it's not surprising that he goes in for this pawn structure. So here again with bishop to b4, and this time there was an exchange of bs. All right, so here we have kind of like a little bit of a Kalashnikov where black will have the Sveshnikov pawn structure, but white had time to play pawn c4, which they normally don't get And in fact, they never get this. They never get this move in the Sveshnikov until later in the game. But never, the move is never played immediately. So this will be interesting to see if these pawns and this knight will bind d5 the way that's it's meant to be bound. One of the things about this position, though, is that because the dark bishops have been exchanged, there is no possibility of removing this knight, which means that black will always have something guarding d5. I don't know if that'll mean anything, but it might later on. Can white go for one of those queen g5 type tactics? Forking here and here. Jeez. Oh, wow, he goes for that. All right. So I've been reading these guys' mind all night. I wonder if that means anything. So, okay. So let's see. So like a cheesy thing like knight b4 won't really work when this is check. I know knight b4 hits a couple of sensitive spots, but this queen also is hitting a couple of. Now, actually, queen takes g7 isn't much of a threat when black could play rook to g8 and everything was defended. So here, RKJ's point must be to capture here. I mean, why else do this? So the question is this worth winning a pawn for? Falling very, but actually, this was what happened in that Karo Khan game where RK. Oh, very nice. Okay, I didn't even see Queen A5. Very good, Cyrus. So yeah, so this whole plan with Queen G5 to farm on E5 or G7 tactically didn't work, and this is completely natural because this is why we're taught over and over again to castle and develop and get your pieces in play before you do anything active. I think the grandmaster that plays like that the most is Sammy Reshevsky. If you ever look at Reshevsky games, there's hardly ever a game where Reshevsky goes for early attacks like Queen G5 without developing the rest of his army first. And it's a very good habit to get into. Now, of course, what this means is that if you delay such a tactic, like queen to g5, then it will be possible for black to play like, h6 and simply block this idea. But it might be worth it to try, just to keep developing and try to get your opponent in order to defend those ideas with flank moves like h6 or something when they need to develop their pieces themselves. So, but yeah, queen a5, the typical Sicilian savior for anything, any sort of pawn or piece that comes to e5, queen a5 usually saves the day. Now develops the knight, but this loses a piece. And then they got to trade. All right, and castles, and again, just simply trading. It's probably the easiest policy. Yeah, I guess that's not really a threat. So, I mean, black could also play b6 and try to, again, bring out the bishop. Moving the d pawn seems rather pointless. I mean, the d pawn, it might be really weak on d6, actually. So, yeah, I would expect something like capture b6. And then the bishop can go to either a6 or b7. And then you can bring in rooks, and that should be the end of the game. Probably will need to make heir at some point. And that's it. He goes b6 first. So now RKJ once again can save a piece from exchange. Since he's a piece down in an endgame, might as well back up. You don't want to back up like this because c4 hangs. So you can back up like this. Seems logical and good, and it will remind Cyrus to start exchanging pieces when you're up a piece, especially in an endgame. Make your life easy for yourself. No, still doesn't do it. Oh, now, okay, so he did it the second time. And look at that. And RKJ pre-moved that move. So it was like he anticipated it, but all right, so f3, rook e1, e5. So attacking, not making a fortress. Like a move like f3 is much more of a fortress style move, trying to hold this point and just try to make it so that none of these pieces can invade. E5 is counterattacking, but when you're a piece down, you actually have to have some Okay, I guess he does have the D7 square, but knight G4 was a possibility. Knight E4. Okay, so threatening F2, threatening to trade. If white takes and black takes, and there's a fork there, but D7 falls. But that's okay. Probably taking G2 is all right. But all this did is just trade down into an even easier end game for black to win. So I suppose white might have rook takes pawn, but okay, I guess that didn't work out that way. So a fork. But like I said, all this is done is just traded down the pieces. So he gets to activate the rook. Can win a tempo. Centralize looks good. Okay, so the F pawn is pinned here, so maybe E6 is a threat. Oh, wow. So probably BG6. Can't take because here, well, actually, you probably could because the bishop is guarding H7. So they're collapsing on G7, but they're getting no more. Yeah, BG6 is simple. So what, E7? Probably the only try. I mean, black is threatening to capture, so you should do something with the pawn. Yes, of course. Whoa, but he did not blockade. That looks really risky. Blockading looked way more natural and good. Uh-oh. Yeah, uh-oh. So now this is a big threat. Uh-oh. Looks like RKJ might have turned this around. Yeah, when any of your opponents have a passed pawn, the uh, blockading is plumb necessary in many cases. Just putting something directly in front of it. Oh, and he resigned. Wow, that move was so strong. Actually, let's back up here for a second. So if blockade and then they play here, does this change? This does change it because now black can play F6, and this allows his king to come out and so even when he goes rook to D8, black can ignore this and he can just simply play king F7. Or is that true? Rook takes, rook D8. Uh-oh. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so wait a minute. Is there no move here? Rook D8. Wow, so maybe this was just a win. Is this a winning attack? Oh, let's see. Let's request a computer analysis here. I just want to see the end of this. So rook FB8 was in fact a blunder. I saw that right away. So E7. So rook FE8 was best. And then rook G8, rook GD1 evidently is equal, but let's see what this means. Hold on. Let's move here over here like this. Well, let's see what was going on here in this game. Bishop E4, F6 is playable. So F6. And then on rook to D8. Ah, that's the move I missed. You have to have extra protection for the rook. I get it. So the correct move is to play bishop to E4, which guards the rook a second time. And then we can bring our king in and then harvest on E7. So after rook FB8 and rook GD1, evidently this is a draw somehow. But instead, Syrras resigned, but evidently this is, let's see, so rook E8 is forced, and then rook to D8. And then the difference here is that, okay, so here it's guarding the rook, but the king can't get in. So it looks like that just simply exchanging and re-invading is some sort of 0.0 position. So evidently it was still holdable, but Black mistakenly resigned there. So there's another lesson for you kids. It's like resigning is okay when you're totally losing, but when you still have bullets to shoot, don't resign. But very interesting game. Okay, so it looks like they've already jumped into their fourth match here. So again with the Karo Khan, this time 2 knights variation. Knight f6, capture, capture with the e pawn. Also taken with the g pawn is interesting. d4, bishop g4, h3, take, take. Takes like this, but actually, yeah, actually, I guess h3 was a little bit too early. h3, once black captures here, yeah, if white wants to hold on to the d pawn, you must capture like this, but this is no fun. Now, white does have the bishop pair for this grotesquerie over here. However, castles, I don't know. This actually might give some hope to make something of this mess over here. I might have delayed castling. I might have actually castled long. c3. So this is making room for the queen, making room for the bishop. O-O-O, rook g1, and farm away. Okay, that already threatens bishop f4 in some situations. So actually c3 might have been a tad slow. That doesn't stop bishop f4. I don't know if that means anything, but I mean, I guess it's a move that black can play. Black can also play f5 here. That might actually, yeah, maybe that's the real problem, f5. Maybe not. No. Nah. All right, this, yeah, actually, well, yeah, f5 with knight f6. That might be okay. I'd get out of this if I were you. Get out of the pin. Very good. Okay. So black's got a solid structure. White doesn't have a solid structure, but I don't know. Both sides have good things about their position. Black's got a compact pawn structure. Good play on the central files. This knight's hopping around nicely. White's got some extra space on the center and then the king side. Maybe try to use it. There's that rook to g1. It's going to happen eventually. All right, so not really threatening bishop h6, but it might be something that might happen in the future. h4, h5, h6 seems rather slow, but it also white might actually get enough time to do all of that. Although that seems like a really slow attack. Bishop d3, rook g4, followed by rook g1. Also looks interesting. Black can always play the knight to d5, which might diffuse any attacking chances here. Seems like a good place for the knight. Yep, so he goes there. That move came very quickly. Oh, here comes old Harry. So in spite of the slowness of this attack, it might actually be inevitable to reach h5 and actually take something on g6, thus weakening the black king. Seems like a game of chess. So what? So does black try to get some stuff going on the queen's side? B5, A5, Queen A5. You'd like to fight down the E file, but there's no real squares. All these squares can easily be guarded. Even E5 can be guarded. So like Queen E7 doesn't really make any sense. I guess Queen C7 might threaten like some sort of F4 or try to actually go into an end game rather than try to negotiate the attack. Rook E6. Okay, so very centralizing move. It does put the rook on a kind of a weird spot. Also gives white a tempo with bishop H3 if they want it. It does defend sideways though, if that's a thing. I guess it allows also for doubling on the E file. If queen moves, say to A5, and then rook to E8, and you'll have like very good coordination. So maybe an interesting move. The rook is rather exposed on E6 though. That's rather disconcerting. So he does hit him. So maybe I can't block it with F5, you just capture. So yep, no, so this is the only move that takes advantage of rook E6. So therefore this must be a good move to throw in. It's interesting. Black actually has some interesting defenses to these various pawn moves. H5 might be met by G5, which not only traps the bishop on H6, it sets up a bishop F4 problem. It does give away the F5 square, but trapping the bishop might be worth something. Oh, this is still an interesting game. Let's see if any other interesting games started. Nope. No one else is here. So this is just a two-player battle. And he gives up the exchange. Okay, so it does straighten out the pawns, but the pawns are getting straightened out on the 6th rank here, which means 7th rank is loose. Probably not H5 because of G5 here. So you probably want to back this guy up. Get him out of there. Actually, you could probably even play rook E1. Let's start attacking other weaknesses. Also, C4 might be interesting. Turn your attention up the middle. Okay, so he gets out of this pin potential. This is another good waiting move. C4 or rook E1 were more aggressive though. They actually made threats. It is important to find threats. But on the other hand, this is a good waiting move. Black really can't improve their position. I would consider B5 here. So this C4 move trying to knock this knight off of D5 looks like a reasonable plan for white. So black should at the very least take that away. Also setting up a general pawn storm. This still doesn't stop C4. In fact, it runs into C4. C4 followed by C5. And we got a forky worky here. So and B2 is defended. So I mean black's not really threatening bishop A3 or anything like that. So yeah, this is I don't know. This looks like a really bad move. Let's see what Syrras9 comes up with here. Thinking. Calculating. What are you calculating, Cyrus? Don't go here. Well, he's really giving this a think here. I wonder what it's interesting. It would be interesting to see if after this long think he actually comes up with this move. Seems that that's actually a and he doesn't play it. How about that? No, this is something that I've seen quite a lot in chess where someone that has a good move in the position, if they take more than say a minute to find to play the move, it's not likely they're going to play the good move that they have, and because and the thinking is along totally different lines than what the good move actually was, and that was the case there. He thought for quite a long time, and so the more that he thought, the more it was not likely he was going to play c4. Yeah, finally let's get some stuff going here. Yeah, queen c2. That was a critical loss of tempo there. Okay, but that should be met by g5. And even though that breaks open the diagonal, white can't make use of this. So g5 strands the bishop and suddenly gives the f4 square to black. So it's starting to look more like counterplay. Uh-oh, so he's starting to think. So this is one of those cases where, you have a good move in the position, but if the opponent starts to think for a long time, it's not likely that he's going to play this move. Or at the very least, he's looking at something else. Yeah, rook G, yeah. Like any sort of defense is just going to be met by a large amount of capturing on this square, and that will be the end. Even look at that once again. The longer they think in a moment when they have a good move, the less likely it is they're going to play the good move. You guys that are listening to me at home, you guys can use this factor in your own games. So the situation is it's your opponent's move. You see a good move for your opponent, but they start thinking for a while, and a while could be like anything over a minute, over 2 minutes, whatever a while is to you. If they think longer than that amount of time, then the likelihood of them playing the good move that you see is less than I guess what you would expect. Yeah, so now white got to collapse on here, and now all of a sudden there's some threats. There's a threat of G8, GH, and Bishop G7 checkmate. Actually, I guess that's the main threat. G7 isn't really a threat when you can just play King G8, and suddenly that's a double agent pawn that's clogging up the works, and white would love to take that pawn. Okay, so that blocks out the queen. I would take. I would take. I mean, both these files are open. You could rearrange your rooks so that you're on them. Very easily too. So yeah, HG, or sorry, GH. And then if black plays like a3, you can always defend once. Okay, so going after a different weakness. I guess that's okay too. I mean, this king looks really weak though. I guess we can go after both weaknesses. Why not? All right, so timeout move. Also, if needed, after GH, you can play bishop C1 and have that as a defensive piece as well. Although bishop G7 is looking really strong. Just making sure that this king will get to a really bad square. So you could basically play something, if you get time to play GH, bishop G7 check, king takes H7, and then just lift the rook up somewhere, G5, G2, something like that, so you can bring the other rook over. So here he sacks the knight, but and this is even giving him extra D5 powers. Okay, so skewer, but it's a very expensive skewer. Queen C4 looks really good. Queen C4, if bishop takes, then G7 check followed by Queen E6 mate. So Queen C4 is actually a mating attack. So black actually has no time to take the rook. So that's a good move. Same thing. This is threatening check and mate. So no time to take the rook. Also threatening G7, Queen E6 mate. So that means you have to. Now there might be no defense here. Well, he's down 5, so I mean, that's understandable. Too many mates. And he's thinking about it. What to defend? Check. Simple and good. There it is. And me. So good rock'em sock. Oh wow, he didn't play mate. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. Take or here is mate. So he just simply delayed. He's just torturing him. Now, for those of you that like torturing when you're playing in arena tournaments here at Lee Chess, just know that when you torture your opponent, all you do is make the game longer, which in many cases means that the more time you're investing on this one, the less time you are investing in other games where you can score more points. Now, in this particular tournament, it's not really. Oh, I guess there is a third player, SiberianComfort. But when there's only two players, you can torture your opponent. But I would suggest when you're in these tournaments, when you're playing multiple people, to play the earliest mate that you have. That saves time, and then you can get on to a next game. And like I said, you could score more points. So, all right. So we'll join SiberianComfort into the fray. Oh, everybody's going on pause, so nobody gets to play. How wonderful. All right. Well, we'll go on pause as well, and we'll wait for a game to start. All right. Here we are. RKJ versus SC. And again, SC is a big fan of the Philidor defense, which is not theoretically best. Even I've gone through a Philidor phase, and it's nice having a solid, compact center, but really, it's not. There are better defenses. I mean, of course, the Petrov is excellent. Knight C6 is pretty good. One of these days, I might talk about do a video on Queen to E7, which I believe is called the Gundam defense. I actually played this particular defense with a totally different idea in mind. But D6, yeah, D4 is definitely the best move. And then Bishop to B5 here, White can transpose to the Rui Lopez Steinitz defense, and that gives White a nice position. This is also okay. Knight B4, however, is right out. We can't play this move. I mean, this knight is not attacking anything, and it's just you just you're left to the wolves here. I mean, even C3 is reasonable. Bishop D2, okay. A5, A5. All right. Well, let's see. A3, knight A6, bishop takes A5, wins a pawn here. Well, wait a minute. Let's see. A3, knight A6, bishop takes A5, knight C5. Maybe it doesn't win a pawn. Funny that this position, I mean, is so obscure that, I mean, are we going to make a target out of this guy right out of the opening? Okay, so knight a6 does threaten knight c5. So I don't know if a3 was even accurate because knight c5 actually looks like a good move. Now knight c3 does guard e4, but then that takes away the a5 attack. So maybe we should ignore that. B4 looks interesting. Huh. This check, the Charlie check. Now, of course, here, if Charlie blocks the check, then White can take twice. So this is a case where the Charlie check is actually good. So bishop to D7, probably. Okay, so keeping the tension. And I'm a big fan of Queen E2, just like Queen E7. I like Queen E2 in king pawn games. Very nice post for the queen. Keeps a hold of the E pawn in the most expensive way, admittedly. A lot of times defending it with the knight is cheaper. Defending with the D pawn is cheapest of all. Defending it with the queen, actually castling and defending the E pawn with the rook is quite usual in Rui Lopez style positions. But Queen E2 has its perks. I mean, it monitors the queen's side, keeps a hold of the king's side a little bit, keeps a hold of the pawn, allows the rook to be more flexible. You don't necessarily have to go to E1. You can go to D1. Various advantages. Well, so Siberian's given this a think here. So bishop takes obviously is bad. Bishop takes, queen takes is check, and everything is being forked. So black will have a choice of goodies there. In the meantime, bishop takes a5 is still a threat, which is really funny. Ha! And so it was dealt with. However, that allows bishop takes a6, and that loses the game. So the threat on a5 was too great that it allowed an immediate mistake. So just, yep, and that wins. And good play there by RKJ. So we get to see his technique. Being a piece up here. While that's going on, let's see if anybody else is playing. Nope. Nope, nope, and nope. Fine. So we'll stick with this game. All right, knight f6, and immediately going for trades. Very good. Very good. Capture. If capture, take with check. King to e7, knight c3. Simple, good, to the point. Easy win. So black should probably just ignore this. Look, another knight lash out. So this is earlier we saw knight to b4. This eventually led to nothing. Now we see knight to g4. Yeah, just exchanging. Could probably kick. Could probably knight c3. Could probably even castle. But yeah, here at the Seattle Chess School, we call these lunges, where you take one piece and you lunge at your opponent and hope for the best. One piece lunges are rarely good. The only time, in fact, I would say that the only time that one piece lunges are good is when you're playing an opponent that's ignoring the point to your lunge. That's when it's good. When they are not ignoring the point to your lunge, then it turns out your lunge is just a waste of at least two moves. And if your opponent is a good attacker or counter attacker, two moves is probably more than what they'll need to set up something good against you. So I would say that if you're going to throw a piece at your opponent, you have to have a very concrete point to the move. Knight g4 had no point. I mean, you're not attacking h2, you're not attacking f2, you're not attacking e3, you're defending e5, but I mean, it's unnecessary. It's already defended. All you can do is go back to where you came from, but like I said, that's just going to give your opponent a couple of extra moves, which is not desirable. So g6. Okay, so now Siberian gets in with development, getting on with development. Bishop here, castle. So okay, so first of all, you got to move the knight, or you can go fishing pole style if you want to try that. White doesn't have to take there though. And then white could play like b4, c4, knight c3, expand on the queen side. It's like this is like a king's Indian defense where white is up a piece, and black hasn't even got the king's Indian yet. So you can already go c4, b4, knight c3, and have like a bayonet attack, like almost a direct transposition to a bayonet attack in the king's Indian defense, but have an extra knight. There you go. Why not? Why not? So that's, of course, winning. bg7, knight c3, castle b4. And the game will be over soon. b4. b4, you play b4. You've made all the necessary preparations. Just b4. There you go. That's the way to be. So opening the A file is strategically not good for black. So that means that white will need to prepare c5. So one way they could do that is to play, oh, well, okay, never mind, is to play knight e1 to d3 and then eventually play c5. Also bishop to e3 followed by c5. So of course you take the rook, right? Why think about it? There you go. So now he has the A file as an extra bonus, and you still have the maneuver knight e1 to d3 and c5. And that should crack open the C file or gain severe amount of space on that side of the board. And that should force some sort of resignation. Black can wind up on the king's side, you know, knight h5, f5, or something like that, but there's not enough pieces to work with. I suppose you can try, though. There's not really much going on. h5, so that even slows down f5 even more. And it also gives white knight g5 at some point. So that way, if black ever does move the f pawn, then knight e6 is instantly crushing. So yeah, I don't like this move. So rook a7, rook a7 threatens knight b5. Because e5 is a little bit tender, maybe even c5 is playable. C5, BC, BC, DC, 95. BG5. So going for a totally different concept. Yeah, all right. Knight H7 probably. I mean, you don't want to trade. You're down a piece here. So knight H7, and then that actually makes room for F5, and white no longer has knight G5. So maybe this move is questionable. Knight H7. C5, so give him the en passant test. I don't know if you'd want to, do you want to pass this test? Pass the test, queen C6, take ones, knight D5. That might be worth something. Oh, but he didn't pass the test. So he captured, but now he can't play DC. Remember, kids, when you do the en passant, you have to do it on the move where it happened. He delayed it one move, and now he really liked to en passant, but now he can no longer do that. So knight D5 is no longer playable. Okay, knight B5, however, is playable. So this is probably also just absolutely crushing. And then just try to farm on D6. Queen B2 is interesting. Just dominate the both open files. I like this move because it also closes one of the open files. So he can't, no counterplay on the B file when this is just hanging out here. So white has this plan of like rook A7, queen A2, queen A6, something like that, dominating. It's funny though, black does have the one hope of G5, G4. I mean, you might as well try it. And what else is there? I suppose the other thing is like move the king and rook G8 and then G5, G4. But I don't know, might as well get it in while you can. Bishop D8. Huh. I guess making room for F5. All right. Well, so you get an F5. I guess G5 really isn't going anywhere. So what? Rook A6. Rook A7. Uh-huh. So this forces the queen to go somewhere really bad. So probably here. Queen C8, and then if he takes on D6, you have Queen B8. That's a nice little potential tactic there. Okay, 6. Yeah, maybe. Maybe he can get away with taking here. So this looks like a good move. The queen's distracted away from the pawn, and it looks like the pawn's going to fall next. Probably have to be a little careful. Uh-huh. So he does. Okay, so queen B8, you have to find rook A6. I mean, you're practically forcing them to play queen to B8 anyway, so no other move. Yep. Oh, he finds knight to B5. Okay, so I guess that's a secondary way to do that. This actually looks more efficient. So give me the rook. Maybe you can play, give me the pawn. I mean, staying down the A file is probably a little passive. So same right idea, but not attacking anything. So black does get a free move here. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't see a really good move here. Maybe queen A8 with the idea of knight takes E5, queen A1. Oh, Siberian finds this. So knight takes queen A1 looks really nice, picking up the knight. So a nice little tactical move. I like this. If white had played rook to E7, queen A8 wouldn't have mattered because on the capture. Oh, look at that. And RKJ fell for it. Queen A1. So winning a knight. Yeah. Oh, look at that. And Siberian finds this. Checkerino with a fork. Surprise. Now, white will still have 2 extra pawns. So it's important not to freak out here and be upset that you blundered a knight away. Still 2 pawns extra. All right. Take with check and G3. But black has managed to make this a little more interesting than what is needed. So G3, H4. Now all of a sudden the H pawn is starting to look okay. That's funny. So the other way to do it is to go back to G1, and if queen A1 checked, actually play queen F1. So it's either that or G3, your choice. What will you choose? Chooses this. Okay, so black's got a can opener if they want it. If you could activate the bishop, that would be awesome. Where to go? Trade of rooks. What? I don't know about that. Even rook A8 looked really good there. I mean, if you it just like saving the rook, get the rook coming around. Yeah, if white should trade this off. Black has a bad bishop. F4. Okay. Well, the king's a bit drafty. E8. Queen A1. Yeah, okay. So it was one of those moves. And yeah, probably just trade. I mean, that I guess the only other square is rook B7, but it's kind of making this unnecessarily complicated. Mm-hmm. So F5, H4, stopping the H4 attack, E5, E5. Okay, so threatening E6, also threatening knight D6 in some cases. This knight's way better than the bishop. This looks nice. Hard to defend this. I probably should play maybe bishop a5. Try somehow to activate this bishop. Queen a8. Okay, back with this idea. You know, for that reason, h4 not only stops the h4 attack, but it also gives white king h3 as a little spot to go to if you need to defend yourself. So e6. All right. The final breakthrough. Takes check. Winning the bishop. But the king is a bit drafty over here. This check is good. And then you can pick up g6 with check. Yeah, queen f6 is very accurate here. Yeah, good move. Threatening here. So he has to go back. So king g has to go back, and then queen g6 is check. Oh, no. Whoops. Losing the queen. Oh, but missed it. Okay. So Siberian got lucky there. Maybe. Actually, this still looks really bad. Bishop's under attack. Then finds the win of the queen. Yeah. Well, another Philidor down the drain. Queen b7 won a piece. Queen b7 still wins a piece. Is that the quickest? What is quickest here? Well, he doesn't bother with quickest. Most efficient, I guess. Okay, it just goes for the 2-queen briefing. And that should be that. Promoting with check was instantly winning, but this is mate. Oh, no, it's not mate. This is hanging. Oh, he's dancing around, so it's more torture. More torture. Even that isn't mate. That's not mate either. That isn't mate. Wow, okay. So he finds the log roll. All right. Reasonable technique. So maybe these guys will have one more rematch. We'll start up again when that happens. All right, that looks like it'll be the end of it. There's 2 minutes and 35 seconds left, but that's not enough to start the game. So Cyrus will be the winner with 10 points. RKJ gets 4. SiberianComfort with the 1 game gets 0, but we'll get the orange trophy for this one. And so we'll call it a day there. Hope you guys enjoyed that. This has been Coach Matt for the Seattle Chess School, and we'll see you guys on the next one.